I stand alone in the church's bridal room, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows, casting blues and golds across my wedding dress. My reflection stares back at me from the antique mirror, tear tracks glistening on my cheeks, phone still clutched in my trembling hand. A soft knock breaks the silence. The door creaks open, and Linda, our wedding coordinator, pokes her head in. Her smile fades when she sees my face. Megan, your father called the front desk? The question hangs in the air. I draw a deep breath, straighten my spine, and meet her gaze. They're not coming, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. They chose my sister's barbecue instead. Linda's mouth forms a perfect O. The kindness in her eyes almost undoes me. 20 minutes earlier, I'd been all nervous energy and anticipation. The makeup artist had just finished, declaring me the most radiant bride she'd seen all season. My hands shook as I reached for my phone when it rang, Dad's name lighting up the screen. Daddy, are you almost here? My voice had been bright, eager, childlike even. Megan. His tone stopped me cold. That flat, matter-of-fact voice he used when delivering disappointing news. I'd heard it so many times before. We won't be able to make it today, sweetheart. My free hand gripped the back of the vanity chair. What do you mean? Tara's housewarming barbecue just can't be rescheduled. All her new neighbors are coming, and the food's already been ordered. I pressed the phone tighter against my ear, certain I'd misheard. Dad, it's my wedding day. I know, honey, and I'm sorry about the timing. These things happen. These things happen. As if missing your daughter's wedding was like missing a movie night or dinner reservation. Mom wanted me to tell you we're both very sorry, he continued, his voice growing softer with practiced regret. Tara sends her love. The silence stretched between us, familiar as an old scar. Megan, are you there? I'm here. Two simple words, yet they seem to come from somewhere outside myself. We'll make it up to you. Maybe take you and Daniel out to a nice dinner next month. I'd closed my eyes, seeing not the bridal room around me, but a scene from 20 years ago. 8-year-old me standing in our driveway, watching Mom and Dad load suitcases into the car. Tara bouncing in the back seat, waving her Minnie Mouse ears. You'll have a wonderful time with Grandma and Grandpa, Mom had said, brushing a kiss across my forehead. Disneyland would be too overwhelming for someone your age. I was 11 months younger than Tara. That night, Grandpa George taught me to fish in the pond behind their farmhouse. More fish for us, he'd said with a wink when I asked why my parents always left me behind. Later, Grandma Linda let me help bake apple pie, lifting me onto a stool so I could reach the counter. Some people don't know the value of what they have right in front of them, she'd murmured, her flour-dusted hands gentle on my shoulders. The accidental child, the afterthought, always left behind. I stare at my reflection now, wiping tears away with steady fingers. The woman looking back at me isn't surprised, only disappointed. I'd sent the invitations more out of obligation than hope, knowing deep down what would happen. The wedding gown catches the light, thousands of tiny beads shimmering. Grandma and Grandpa had insisted on helping pay for it, despite my protests. Every bride deserves to feel like royalty, Grandma had said, eyes misting when I stepped out of the dressing room. My gaze shifts to my phone. 3 missed calls from Daniel. My soon-to-be husband, probably wondering where I've disappeared to. He'll be worried. Something hardens in my eyes. A decision. I speed dial a number, holding my breath. Grandpa George? Are you still in the church lobby? My voice grows stronger with each word. Dad won't be walking me down the aisle after all. A brief pause, then his voice, warm, sturdy as an oak. I'd be honored to take his place, sweetheart, if you'll have me. I couldn't imagine anyone better. The weight lifts from my shoulders as I make my choice. Today isn't about who isn't here. It's about who always has been. I smooth my dress, touch Grandma's pearls at my throat, and turn toward the door. My reflection smiles back at me, smaller than before, but real. Some things shatter you. Others set you free. I trace my finger over the embossed cardstock, the elegant gold lettering catching the afternoon light streaming through our apartment windows. Daniel watches from the kitchen doorway, coffee mug suspended halfway to his lips. We should all move forward as family, I read aloud, my voice flat. A bitter laugh escapes before I can stop it. Daniel sets his mug down and crosses to the sofa, the cushions dipping as he sits beside me. Your parents? Instead of answering, I rise and walk to the bookshelf where a wedding album sits. Behind it, hidden from casual view, rests a small wooden box Grandpa George's handiwork, carved with delicate wildflowers. I bring it to the coffee table and lift the lid. 1 month after we get married, they decide family matters. My hands tremble slightly as I withdraw the stack of birthday cards. 3 years of silence, then suddenly they care. Daniel doesn't reach for the cards, respecting the invisible boundary around these pieces of my past. Smart man, my husband. I fan them across the table, cheerful envelopes in pastel colors, each containing identical sentiments. Happy birthday, Megan. We miss you. Not once did they call. I tapped the most recent card. Not once in 3 years did they actually try to see me. Just these performative gestures. The afternoon sun shifts, casting shadows across the carpet, and suddenly I'm 16 again, sitting in a sterile hospital room as fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Can you tell me what happened? The nurse's voice is gentle, her eyes flicking to the security guard hovering near the door. My split lip throbs in time with my heartbeat, 4 fresh stitches pulling tight with every wince. I fell. I say automatically, the lie practiced and perfect. The nurse, her name tag reads, Marlene adjusts her glasses and makes a note on her clipboard. That's quite a fall. She gestures to my face, the bruising already blooming purple across my cheekbone. Doorknobs don't usually swing back for a second hit. My fingers clench the paper sheet covering the examination table. Outside, voices rise in the hallway, my parents arriving. But it's what the nurse says next that changes everything. Your sister seems very upset. A cold weight settles in my stomach. Tara's here? The nurse nods. In the waiting room with a young man. She's quite distraught. Because she'd been caught. Because Eric Chambers had asked me to study with him instead of her. Because I hadn't immediately declined. The examination room door bursts open, my mother rushing in with tear-streaked makeup. Behind her, Dad stands rigid in the doorway, his face thunderous. Neither looks at me. Where is Tara now? Mom demands of the nurse. She's fragile as she needs us. The nurse's expression shifts minutely. Your daughter has a concussion, a split lip requiring stitches, and severe facial contusions. Megan understands her sister. Dad says, finally glancing at me, his eyes conveying a clear message. Say nothing. Fix this. But for once, I don't nod or agree. Something in the nurse's quiet compassion unlocks a door inside me. Tara hit me, I say, my voice small but steady. When I told her Eric asked me to study with him. The silence stretches, elastic and dangerous. Mom recovers first. Megan, you know your sister doesn't handle disappointment well. Why would you upset her like that? The memory dissolves as Daniel's hand covers mine, warm and solid, anchoring me to the present. A CPS worker came to the house the next day. I tell him, though he's heard pieces of this story before. The hospital filed a report. I rise and move to the window, watching a young couple walking a golden retriever puppy across the street. So normal. So foreign. My parents were furious, I continue. Not at Tara for putting me in the hospital. At me for not lying better. A muscle in my jaw tightens. My mother stood in our living room while the social worker interviewed me and said, the words stick even now. I swallow hard. She said, if you can't protect your sister, you're not one of us. Daniel makes a sound. Something between a curse and pain. That night, I packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. Grandpa George came to get me. The memory softens the edges of my voice. My father tried to stop him, started talking about family loyalty and keeping problems private. I turned from the window, meeting Daniel's eyes. Grandpa looked him straight in the face and said, "That girl needs safety more than you need your pride." And then he took me home, their home, where I belonged. The afternoon light shifts again, painting everything golden. In my mind, I see Grandma Linda arranging fresh flowers in the bedroom. They'd prepared my favorite books already on the shelves, thick quilts on the bed, a lock on the door I could control. "They made me a sanctuary," I say quietly. My fingers drift to the scar near my eyebrow, barely visible now. At graduation, I kept scanning the audience. Stupid, right? 3 rows back, my grandparents sat with these ridiculous air horns Grandpa had smuggled in. When they announced my scholarship, they stood and cheered like I'd won the Nobel Prize. I pause, my throat tight. My parents showed up during the final hour. They'd only come for Tara's choir performance. Daniel rises and crosses to me, his arms encircling my waist from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. "Their loss," he whispers against my ear. I lean back into his strength, watching the young couple with their puppy disappear around the corner. "Sometimes the family who should love you the most loves you the least," I say softly, turning the new card from my parents over in my hands. I learned that lesson young. Daniel takes the card gently, tossing it into the trash bin beside the desk. His gesture asks a question. I nod, exhaling slowly. "The most painful test is still coming, though." "What do you mean?" "What happens when the family who abandoned you suddenly wants back in? What happens when they only want you when it's convenient for them?" The silence stretches between us, filled with all the answers we both already know. I stand in my new dorm room, the empty walls staring back at me like blank pages waiting to be filled. 300 miles from my hometown feels like breathing different air. Cleaner, lighter, free from the shadow of being Tara's forgotten sister. My roommate Katie bursts through the door, arms laden with throw pillows and photo frames. "Sorry I'm late." Mom wouldn't stop crying. She dumps everything on her bed and surveys my half of the room. Her gaze lingers on my barren desk and the solitary photo of Grandma Linda and Grandpa George. "No family pictures?" she asks, then winces at her own question. I smooth the corner of my bedspread. "Actually, that is my family." Katie's eyes widen with understanding, not pity. "Well, they look like they adore you." "They do," I smile. "They're the one who taught me what family actually means." The library ceiling soars 15 feet above the reference section, and I stand on tiptoes, fingers grazing the spine of Principles of Conservation Biology. My muscles stretch beyond comfort, but the book remains maddeningly out of reach. "Need a hand?" The voice behind me rumbles low and warm. I turn to find a tall guy with glasses and rumpled dark hair watching me with amusement. "Unless you're secretly enjoying watching me suffer," I reply. He laughs and reaches up, easily plucking the book from the shelf. "Daniel Mercer," he says, handing it over. "And I never enjoy watching anyone suffer." His fingers brush mine. Something electric passes between us. "Megan Collins." I clutch the book to my chest. "Thanks for the rescue." "Anytime." He gestures to the worn paperback tucked under his arm. "Bradbury fan?" My eyebrows lift in surprise. "Fahrenheit 451 is my favorite." "Mine too," he says, eyes crinkling. Book people have to stick together in a world of screens. We talk until the library closes, our voices dropping to whispers as other students drift away. Daniel listens, really listens, when I finally reveal fragments of my childhood. No interruptions, no platitudes, no awkward shifting away from uncomfortable truths. When I finish, he simply says, "Their loss, Megan Collins. Completely their loss." The Mercer family home glows with warmth when I step inside for Thanksgiving. Steam rises from pots on the stove, while football plays in the background. So ordinary, so unfamiliar. "Megan," Daniel's mother rushes forward, flour dusting her apron. "We've been counting down the days." Daniel squeezes my hand before his brothers pull him into a debate about the game. I follow his mother into the kitchen, where she hands me an apron. Daniel says you're interested in cooking, she says. I've never really had the chance to learn family recipes. Something flickers across her face, understanding without the weight of judgment. Well, these mashed potatoes have been passed down for 4 generations. You're about to become generation 5. Later, when Margaret Mercer pulls a box from beneath the tree and hands it to me, I'm confused. Christmas isn't for another month. Just a little pre-Christmas tradition, she explains. Each year, we give one early gift. Inside lies a hand-knit stocking with my name embroidered across the top. Not an afterthought, not a hasty addition. My name planned and permanent. I excuse myself to the bathroom, where I press my face into a towel and let silent tears soak the cotton. When I return, no one mentions my red-rimmed eyes. The academic dean's office smells like old books and coffee. Miss Collins, your application for the library sciences internship is quite impressive. I straighten in my chair. Thank you, sir. 2 campus jobs while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. He reviews my file. Most students struggle with half that workload. A knot forms in my throat. I think of endless nights studying under my desk lamp, eyes burning with exhaustion. I'm accustomed to making things work. Well, Mrs. Jeffrey specifically requested you for the special collections position. Says you have, quote, extraordinary attention to detail and a reverence for historical texts. Pride blooms in my chest, warm and unfamiliar. This praise belongs entirely to Minoa comparison, not an afterthought, but recognition for my own merit. When can you start, he asks. Yesterday, I say, and he laughs. Grandpa George's farm spreads before us, autumn leaves crunching beneath our feet. Daniel's hand slips into mine as we walk the familiar path to the pond. You're quiet today, I say. Just thinking. His thumb brushes my knuckles. Your grandfather caught me staring at fishing lures for 20 minutes this morning. I laugh. He probably thought you were contemplating fish psychology. No, he knew exactly what I was doing. Daniel stops at the pond's edge, where years ago Grandpa taught me to fish after my parents left for Disneyland. He gave me something. Daniel drops to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside gleams a delicate ring with a center stone surrounded by tiny diamonds. Grandma Linda's ring, I whisper. They love you so much, Megan. His voice wavers. Almost as much as I do. Will you marry me? Through blurred vision, I nod. Yes. Behind us, a twig snaps. Grandpa and Grandma stand at the tree line, her face wet with tears, his chest puffed with pride. They plan this moment, these people who never left me behind. The notification chimes while Daniel and I choose wedding venues online. I glance at my phone, then freeze. Nancy Collins has sent you a message. 5 years of silence, and now my mother reaches out, 12 hours after I posted our engagement photos. What is it? Daniel asks, concern etching his forehead. I turn the screen toward him. Suddenly, my mother remembers I exist. He reads the brief message. Your father and I are so happy for you. We'd love to discuss wedding plans. Are you sure you want to respond? Daniel's question holds no pressure, only protection. I stare at the screen, at my mother's profile picture showing her perfect smile beside my father and Tara at some beach resort. My thumb hovers over the keyboard, trembling slightly. Sometimes the people who hurt us most have perfect timing. They return just when our happiness feels complete. Megan? Daniel squeezes my hand. The choice stretches before me like 2 different futures. I arrive at Riverside Cafe 20 minutes early and claim the corner table by the window. The familiar scent of fresh-grown coffee beans reminds me of study sessions during college before life got complicated again. My fingers trace the rim of an empty mug as I rehearse what I'll say to the parents I haven't seen in 3 years. The bell above the door chimes. My spine stiffens before I even look up. They stand in the doorway scanning the room. Mom clutches her purse with white knuckles. Dad's hand rests on her lower back, guiding her forward when he spots me. 3 years haven't changed them, much. Mom's hair is still perfectly colored, Dad's posture military straight. I rise as they approach. Mom's arms open for a hug that feels like embracing a mannequin, stiff, perfunctory. Dad extends his hand for a formal shake, as if we're concluding a business meeting rather than beginning a family reunion. You look well, Megan. Mom's eyes dart around the cafe. This is a lovely spot. How's the wedding planning coming along? Dad asks before I can respond to Mom. No. How have you been? No. We've missed you. Just straight to the agenda. It's going fine. I sip my water. Daniel and I have most details settled. That's wonderful, Mom says. And how is your job at the library? University archives. I'm the research librarian now. Dad nods, clearly uninterested. We should discuss the ceremony. Have you booked the church yet? The barista delivers their coffees black for Dad, vanilla latte for Mom. Same orders for 20 years. Yes, First Methodist downtown, May 15th. I watch their expressions carefully. Grandma helped me with the deposit. A flicker of annoyance crosses Dad's face at the mention of his mother. He clears his throat. We were thinking about the guest list. Here it comes. Will Tara be receiving an invitation? His tone suggests there's only one acceptable answer. I set my mug down deliberately. No. Mom gasps softly. Megan, she's your sister. I'm aware of our biological connection. What will people think? Mom leans forward, voice dropping to a whisper. Everyone, you have a sister. They'll ask questions. The real concern emerges. Not my feelings, not my safety, not even Tara's feelings, just appearances. I'm not concerned with what people think. I'm concerned with having a peaceful wedding day. Dad's jaw tightens. Families forgive, Megan. Forgiveness doesn't require exposure to further harm. Mom's eyes well with tears, the performance I've seen since childhood. We're finally being a family again, after all this time apart. She reaches across the table for my hand. Don't you want that? My hands tremble beneath the table, but I keep my voice steady. What I want is genuine connection, not conditional acceptance. That's not fair, Dad says, voice hardening. We've reached out. We're here. 3 years after I moved out. 6 months after I got engaged. I meet his gaze. Only when there's a public event where my absence might be noticed. Mom dabs at her eyes with a napkin. We could try family therapy. After the wedding, of course. Tara has promised to be on her best behavior, Dad adds. Just for the one day. The implication hangs unspoken. If I refuse, they'll withdraw again. The familiar threat disguised as reasonable compromise. I'll still walk you down the aisle, Dad offers, as if bestowing a great gift. That's what fathers do. I take a deep breath, hands still hidden beneath the table, where they can't see them shake. I'd rather have peace than fake harmony. Their faces transform, Mom's tears vanishing, Dad's jaw clenching. You've always been difficult, he says, always making mountains out of molehills. Perhaps we could compromise, Mom suggests desperately. What if Tara attends just the reception? I reach for my wallet, place enough cash on the table to cover all our drinks. I've already survived without you for 3 years. I stand, smoothing my skirt. I've built a good life with people who show up consistently, not just when it's convenient. Their stunned faces tell me they expected the same pattern. Their demands, my compliance. The power has shifted. I hope you'll reconsider, Dad calls as I walk away. I don't turn back. My steps are measured, my back straight. For the first time in their presence, I feel neither anger nor fear, just a quiet certainty that I've made the right choice. Some people will never value what they have until it's gone, and sometimes what's gone shouldn't come back. I stand alone in the church's bridal room, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows, casting blues and golds across my wedding dress. My reflection stares back at me from the antique mirror, tear tracks glistening on my cheeks, phone still clutched in my trembling hand. A soft knock breaks the silence. The door creaks open, and Linda, our wedding coordinator, pokes her head in. Her smile fades when she sees my face. Megan, your father called the front desk? The question hangs in the air. I draw a deep breath, straighten my spine, and meet her gaze. They're not coming, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. They chose my sister's barbecue instead. For 3 weeks, the pressure had been building. Mom called daily, her voice shifting between syrupy sweetness and wounded martyrdom. Absolutely certain about this decision, Megan? Family is forever. Weddings are meant to bring people together, not drive them apart. I'd stop whatever I was doing, addressing invitations, confirming flowers, finalizing vows, and listen to variations of the same conversation. My silence on the other end only fueled her determination. Your father barely sleeps. Is that what you want? To know you're causing him such distress? Then came Tara's text yesterday, blindsiding me completely. I'm not the one keeping us apart. Never have been. They've made their own choices about you. Always have. My fingers had hovered over my phone, unsure how to respond to this first ever acknowledgement of our family's dysfunction. Before I could decide, Dad called with his ultimatum. Tara's housewarming barbecue is the same day as your wedding. His voice carried that familiar note of finality. We can't be in 2 places at once, Megan. She scheduled it knowing my wedding date. The words tasted bitter on my tongue. She's been planning this for weeks. All her new neighbors are coming. Dad, I saved the dates 6 months ago. His sigh traveled across the phone line, heavy with manufactured regret. This is the consequence of your choice not to include your sister. Actions have consequences, Megan. The truth crashed over me like cold water. They'd never intended to come unless Tara was invited. This last-minute conflict was their exit strategy, their way of making me the villain while preserving their image as would-be attendees thwarted by circumstance. 20 minutes ago, I'd been all nervous energy and anticipation. The makeup artist had just finished, declaring me the most radiant bride she'd seen all season. My hands shook as I reached for my phone when it rang, Dad's name lighting up the screen. Daddy, are you almost here? My voice had been bright, eager, childlike even. Megan. His tone stopped me cold. That flat, matter-of-fact voice he used when delivering disappointing news. I'd heard it so many times before. We won't be able to make it today, sweetheart. My free hand gripped the back of the vanity chair. What do you mean? Tara's housewarming barbecue just can't be rescheduled. All her new neighbors are coming, and the food's already been ordered. I pressed the phone tighter against my ear, certain I'd misheard. Dad, it's my wedding day. I know, honey, and I'm sorry about the timing. These things happen. These things happen. As if missing your daughter's wedding was like missing a movie night or dinner reservation. Mom wanted me to tell you we're both very sorry, he continued, his voice growing softer with practiced regret. Tara sends her love. The silence stretched between us, familiar as an old scar. Megan, are you there? I'm here. 2 simple words, yet they seem to come from somewhere outside myself. We'll make it up to you. Maybe take you and Danielle to a nice dinner next month. I didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't cry. For the first time, I simply hung up without saying goodbye. My hands stopped shaking as I scrolled through my contacts and pressed Grandpa George's number. He answered on the first ring. Pumpkin? Everything okay? The lump in my throat dissolved at the sound of his voice. Dad's not coming. My voice grew stronger with each word. Would you walk me down the aisle instead? A pause, not of hesitation, but of emotion too big for words. I'd be honored, his voice cracked. More than you know. I've been waiting 68 years to walk a daughter down the aisle. I couldn't imagine anyone better. Now I touch Grandma's pearls at my throat and smooth my dress, checking my reflection one last time. Another knock sounds, gentler than the first. Megan? Grandpa George calls through the door. Whenever you're ready, I'm here. I open the door to find him standing tall in his navy suit, boutonniere perfectly straight, eyes misting when he sees me. He offers his arm with a small bow, courtly and dignified. You are the most beautiful bride these old eyes have ever seen, he says, voice steady despite the tears gathering at the corners of his eyes. "And the strongest woman I know." The church doors open. The gathered guests rise. Daniel waits at the altar, his face transforming with love when he spots me. Grandma sits in the front row, handkerchief clutched in her hand, beaming with the kind of pride only those who have truly loved you can show. Daniel's family fills the pews on my side, his mother, insisted, refusing to let empty chairs tell a story of absence. Grandpa's arm is solid beneath my hand as we take our first step together. The music swells around us, but it's the whisper of his voice I hear. "Head high now, Megan. You're not walking toward what you've lost. You're walking toward everything you've found." I straighten my shoulders and match his stride, my smile growing with each step forward. I run my fingers over the silver frame holding our wedding photo. Daniel and I beam at each other, our faces caught in that perfect moment when everything else faded away. Grandpa George stands behind us, one hand on my shoulder, pride radiating from him like warmth from a winter fire. "This one goes right here," I say, placing it on the mantel of our new home. Daniel sets down a box marked kitchen and crosses to my side. Perfect spot. He wraps his arm around my waist, pulling me close against him. Sunlight streams through windows we haven't yet hung curtains in, catching dust motes that dance around us. The living room smells of fresh paint and possibility. Boxes labeled in my careful handwriting create a cardboard maze around us. "I still can't believe this is ours," I whisper. Daniel kisses my temple. "Believe it. We earned this." My gaze drifts across the mantel to the other frames we've arranged: my college graduation, with Grandma Linda dabbing tears, a faded photo of 8-year-old me fishing with Grandpa, Daniel proposing at the farm pond. Not a single image contains my parents or Tara. "You thinking about Thanksgiving?" Daniel asks, reading my silence. "Your mom called yesterday, asked if we wanted to host this year." "And?" I turn in his arms. "I told her maybe next year. First holiday married, I'd rather not juggle hosting and everything else." Daniel nods, understanding all I haven't said. "Whatever makes you comfortable, Mom's fine, yay." The peace I feel surprises me. 4 months ago, I stood alone in a church bridal room, shattered by yet another abandonment. Now I stand in my own home with a man who has never once made me feel like an afterthought. The email arrives exactly 1 month after our wedding. I stare at Tara's name in my inbox, finger hovering over the delete button. "You don't have to read it," Daniel says from across our dining table. "I know. But I do." The message opens with words I've never heard from my sister before. "I am truly sorry." My hands shake as I read about her jealousy, how she deliberately created conflicts when family events involved me, how she'd schedule important things on days she knew mattered to me. The barbecue wasn't spontaneous, she'd planned it for my wedding day on purpose. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know it was never your fault. It was mine. All of it." I close the laptop, oddly numb. "How does that make you feel?" Dr. Winters asks, her office a haven of calm blues and soft textures. Confused. I twist my wedding ring. 30 years of being the family scapegoat, and now she wants. What? Absolution? What do you think she wants? I don't know. Reconciliation? A clean slate? Dr. Winters leans forward slightly. "What do you want, Megan?" The question hangs between us. Outside her window, autumn leaves spiral downward. "I want to stop letting them control how I feel. Even their absence takes up so much space." She nods. "Forgiveness isn't about them deserving it, it's about whether holding on still serves you." I'm not ready to welcome her back. That's not what forgiveness requires. Boundaries are different from grudges. I consider this. So I can forgive without opening the door wide? Exactly. You can acknowledge her apology without rushing reconciliation. The phone feels heavy in my hand as I dial Grandpa's number. "Hello, sweetheart." His voice wraps around me like a quilt. "Hi, Grandpa." I sink onto our couch. "What are you and Grandma doing for Thanksgiving?" "Oh, probably just us this year. Mrs. Henderson might join us from next door." Would you both come to Daniel's parents' house instead? With us?" Silence stretches between us. We want to intrude on your in-laws' traditions. My throat tightens. You're my real family, Grandpa. You always have been. The words come out thick with unshed tears. The people I love most around the same table. His voice breaks. We'd be honored, Meggie, truly honored. Daniel's mother sets out her grandmother's china, each plate rimmed with gold. Their dining room buzzes with the warm chaos of family. Daniel's brothers arguing good-naturedly about football, his father deep in conversation with Grandpa George about woodworking, Grandma Linda showing Mrs. Cooper her secret pie crust recipe. I notice something unusual at the table. 2 empty chairs. Mom? Daniel questions when he sees them. She meets my eyes. I thought, just in case your parents or sister called. The door is always open in this family. Instead of pain, I feel something softer. Gratitude. They hadn't called. Probably wouldn't. But the space remained, an acknowledgement rather than an expectation. Daniel squeezes my hand under the table. Later, after pumpkin pie and coffee, I find myself alone by the mantel where Daniel's mother displays their family photos. She's added our wedding picture among them. My fingers trace a childhood photo with my grandparents, then drift to our wedding day. The joy in both images isn't pretended. Family is who loves you when it's hardest to love you. I whisper to no one and everyone. For the first time, those words feel like freedom instead of loss.